The system of loaning out footballers that we now know was designed to allow players who couldn't get game time at their parent clubs to go out and get experience without their parent clubs actually having to sell them. The first recognised loanee under this system, a 19-year-old named John Docker, joined Torquay United in Division 3 from Coventry City in Division 1. In fact, when the Football League's loan system was first introduced during the mid-1960s, you could only loan players out to teams in different divisions. For the most part, that is still how most loan moves work. Bigger clubs with bigger resources and an abundance of talented young players who can't get into their first team send players out on loan to smaller clubs with smaller squads where they hope that they'll get game time. But what about the exceptions to that rule? A couple of years ago, I made a similar video to this one, taking a look at footballers who were on loan at clubs who were a lot stronger than their parent teams. And following a frantic January transfer window, full of loan activity, and several requests after that video did surprisingly well, I thought that it might be interesting to revisit that topic. Without further ado then, who has no club right now so can't go out on loan, here are 7 footballers who are on loan at teams much better than their parent clubs. 7th, Jack Butland. A very straightforward one to get us started. Every season now one of the top 6 teams in the Premier League seems to go out and sign a random keeper, either on a free transfer or on loan. Typically they're English, in order to boost their homegrown player quotas, and typically they come in as third choice and don't play a single minute of football. So Scott Carson joined Manchester City on loan from Derby County, Liverpool brought in Andy Lonergan, Chelsea signed Rob Green, and before Jack Butland, you may recall that for 4 whole seasons, Manchester United had Lee Grant. Grant played a grand total of, drumroll please, 2 games, 1 in each of his first 2 seasons, over the course of those 4 years, spending less time actually on the pitch at Old Trafford during the 2020-21 season than some Manchester United fans protesting against the Glazers. The concerning thing for Jack Butland, however, is that whilst Carson, Green and Grant were all touching 40 by the time that they became backups for super clubs, Butland is still only 29. Capped 9 times by England, and once touted as the Three Lions' future number 1, Butland hasn't played regular top-flight football since getting relegated at Stoke City in the 2017-18 season. For 2 seasons playing in the Championship, Butland's confidence looked to have been shot to pieces before Crystal Palace threw him a life raft in 2020. If things went right, at least it was hoped, Butland might be able to challenge Vicente Guaita for the number 1 shirt at Selhurst Park. Well, things didn't go right. In 2 seasons, Butland played just 10 Premier League games, and he was allowed to join Manchester United on loan at the beginning of last month, where he appears to be third choice behind David De Gea and a 36-year-old Tom Heaton at this moment in time. 6th, Raul Bellanova. Not to be confused with Raul Moat, the notorious fugitive who killed a man and then himself with a sawn-off shotgun following an extensive manhunt by Northumbria police in 2010. I suspect there wasn't much confusion, they just have the same first name, but always best to err on the side of caution. Raul Bellanova is a 22-year-old Italian right-back who, to the best of my knowledge, has never killed anyone with a sawn-off shotgun in the Northumberland area, or anywhere else for that matter. He has gone out on loan, though, to a much better team than his parent club, which isn't a criminal offence, yet, but it does earn him a spot in this 7. A fleet-footed right-back who loves to bomb forward, but still has plenty of room to improve, Bellanova has played an incredible number of games for Italy at youth team level, now aged 22. Once of the AC Milan youth ranks, he joined Bordeaux as a teenager in 2019, where he played 1 game before returning to Italy, initially on loan, and then on a permanent basis. It should be said, loan moves to better teams are less unusual in Serie A than almost anywhere else, where 1 or often 2-year loan deals with an obligation to buy are a fairly common way of structuring transfers. Bellanova's loan move from his parent club Cagliari, who are currently 6th in Serie B, to Inter Milan, who are currently 2nd in the Serie A table, didn't actually come with an obligation to buy, though Inter do have the option of triggering that clause for a fee of around £6 million. Bellanova has had a mixed 6 months at Inter Milan to date, and that is, putting it quite kindly, recently having had to be consoled at the end of a disappointing display against Empoli, in which he was booed by his own supporters at the San Siro. 5th, Sebastian Szymański. Probably the least obvious on loan at a much better club inclusion in this 7, Sebastian Szymański is currently on loan at Feyenoord from Dynamo Moscow. A couple of years ago, you probably could have said that there wasn't a great deal between those two clubs, and if you were to go back a little over a decade, I think you could even probably make the case that Dynamo Moscow were the better team. That has changed pretty radically over a very short period of time though. Sanctions have hit Russian football, and hit it hard, as I covered in a recent video. Meanwhile, Feyenoord have been brilliant this season, and they currently lead the Eredivisie, having lost just 1 game all season. Sebastian Szymański is one of many foreign players to have left Russia since the country's escalation in Ukraine, and he has been a big part of Feyenoord's success this season, having made 10 goal contributions in 18 Eredivisie matches before picking up a recent knee injury. The former Legia Warsaw star, who has won 20 caps for Poland to date, is renowned for his versatility and application. He is contracted to Dynamo Moscow until 2026, but it would take a miracle, and indeed a welcome one, for him to see out that deal. And no doubt Feyenoord would love to trigger the £8.2 million option that they have written into his loan deal and sign him on a permanent basis. 4th, Giovanni Simeone. The son of Atletico Madrid manager Diego Simeone, Giovanni Simeone has followed in his father's footsteps by winning 5 caps for Argentina, all coming in 2018 whilst he was playing for Fiorentina. Born in Argentina but raised in both Italy and Spain, as Diego changed clubs, Simeone seemed not to have developed as Fiorentina had hoped since they let him sign for Cagliari. In 2021, Hellas Verona took Simeone on loan with the option to make it a permanent, and they couldn't have activated that clause any quicker after he scored 17 goals in 35 games last season. Verona paid €10.5 million for Simeone, well in the knowledge that he would most likely never play for them again given the season that he just had. Sure enough, a month after they signed him, Napoli took Simeone on loan with a view to a permanent. Simeone's parent club, Hellas Verona, are currently in the relegation zone in Serie A, struggling desperately without him, having finished 9th last season. Meanwhile, his loan club, Napoli, are playing some of, if not the best football in all of Europe, on course to win their first Scudetto since 1990, when they were captained by Diego Maradona, with a massive 13-point lead at the top of the table at the time of this recording. Simeone has been used sparingly by Napoli to date, given everyone else's fine form in Luciano Spalletti's 4-3-3 formation, but he proved his worth just last week, coming off the bench to score the winner in a crucial 2-1 win against Roma. Napoli aren't officially obliged to buy Simeone in the summer for €12 million, having also paid a €3.5 million loan fee, but they would be if they were to qualify for the Champions League and he scored 20 goals. The first is a certainty at this stage, but given his lack of minutes, Simeone has only scored 8 goals so far this season. Nonetheless, it seems eminently plausible that Napoli will still trigger the option purely based upon Simeone's performances. Third, Moise Kean. The only player who made my Players on Loan at Better Club 7 2 years ago that features once again this time around. Say what you like about Moise Kean, but if there is one thing that he loves, it's going on loan to clubs that are better than his own. In all fairness, given that his parent club is Everton, that isn't particularly difficult. There's probably about 3,000 teams that the Italian could join on a temporary basis, including your local Sunday League team, while still being on loan at a better club. I'm sorry, Toffees fans, that was a little bit uncalled for, even if most of you would agree yourselves. There can be no doubt though, I don't think, that Kean's current club, Juventus, despite being in an enormous crisis all of their own, are still a much better team than Everton. I made a whole video recently about Juventus' recent 15-point deduction, the series of investigations into them, and the potential ramifications for some of Europe's other biggest clubs. And yes, I would highly recommend watching it, in case you were wondering. But it was in Turin that Kean began his career, scoring 8 goals in 21 games as a very promising youngster, before being allowed to join Everton for a potential €30 million in the summer of 2019. A quick, clever, and devilishly strong centre-forward, Kean never quite clicked at Goodison Park, where he only managed to score 2 goals in 32 Premier League games. Having impressed on loan at PSG in the 2020-21 season, Juventus took the Italian on a 2-year loan in the summer of 2021 for a €7 million fee, with an obligation to buy him in 2023 for €28 million, plus a further €3 million in potential future add-ons. It's a rare transfer that has actually worked out for Everton then, at least from a financial standpoint, but it could spell trouble for Juventus, who are already accused of cooking the books, so to speak, to dodge financial and sustainability rules, and obliged to fork out a huge fee in the summer when they are unlikely to even qualify for a European competition this season. Kean has scored 12 goals in 66 games since returning to Juve 18 months ago. Second, Hugo Ekitike. Another big young centre-forward currently on loan at a much better club, Hugo Ekitike joined PSG on loan from Rennes in the summer of 2022. Aged 20, and previously having gone on loan to the Danish Superliga, Ekitike scored 11 goals in 26 games during his breakout campaign with Rennes last season, which clearly caught the attention of PSG among others. The Parisians certainly weren't alone. Ekitike turned down the chance to join Newcastle United following their state-backed Saudi takeover in January 2022, biding his time that something better was in the offing. He was proved right when Qatari state-backed French champions PSG decided to take him on loan, with the option of making that deal a permanent one for a fee of €35 million. As yet uncapped by France's extremely competitive senior national team, and without a goal in 6 appearances for the country's under-20s, Ekitike remains very raw. Capable of playing out wide, but typically deployed through the middle, Ekitike has scored 4 goals and made 1 assist in 19 games since signing for PSG. For Rennes' part, they haven't really missed Ekitike, not because he wasn't brilliant for them, he was, but because they took Folarin Balogun on loan from Arsenal, who is absolutely killing it, having bagged 15 goals in 21 games so far this season. First, Wout Weghorst. Surely the most notable example of a player currently on loan at a much better team than his own. Burnley might be flying high in the Championship this season, and they do genuinely look like a very good team, but Manchester United have been transformed by Erik ten Hag and look to be one of the top 3 teams in the country. Ten Hag might have been able to turn Manchester United's fortunes around with the help of a resurgent Marcus Rashford and the additions of Lisandro Martinez and Casemiro among others, but he wasn't able to magic a centre-forward out of nowhere. Whilst Cristiano Ronaldo's exile and then departure did seem to give the club a real lift, Anthony Martial's inability to stay fit has left the Red Devils all too often without a recognised centre-forward. Enter stage left, Wout Weghorst. The 6'6" Dutch battering ram, who isn't the quickest but never stops running, has certainly brought some presence to the Manchester United front line. Prolific throughout most of his playing days, Weghorst scored 25 goals in his last full season at Wolfsburg before becoming Burnley's supposed saviour following the sale of Chris Wood. Weghorst looked to be smart business, arriving in Lancashire for a fee of £12 million, but he struggled to make much of an impact. A return of just 2 goals from 20 games wasn't exactly what the Clarets had in mind, nor was it enough to keep them in the Premier League. Over the summer, a new-look Burnley side under the management of Vincent Kompany allowed Weghorst to go out on loan to Besiktas, keen to offload his sizable salary by Championship standards. Weghorst struck 9 times in 18 games in Turkey, and that, combined with his 2 goals against Argentina at the World Cup, after coming off the bench, didn't go unnoticed by his compatriot Erik ten Hag. So whilst Chelsea were busy spending the GDP of a small nation on the likes of Enzo Fernandez and Mykhailo Mudryk, Manchester United, the biggest club in English football by most metrics, tried their luck at signing a striker on loan from a Championship club. It might seem odd, amusing even, but Weghorst actually looks to be quite a good fit at Old Trafford, even if it is only until they go big in the summer. Relentlessly hard-working and much more durable than Martial, Weghorst set Manchester United back a £2.6 million loan fee, plus wages of course, and they have no option or obligation to buy him as part of the deal. That is it for today's video, but thank you all very much as ever for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. Hit the like button if that was the case, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on, of course, for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on Twitter or on Instagram, just via the username at HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.